if there are no objections, I would like to call to order the October 2021 meeting of the Marathon County Extension Education and Economic Development Committee as of 4:25 p.m. So the first item on the agenda today is our public comment. We do have two individuals that have registered for public comment. The first person that was registered was William Sue. So, sir, I understand you are joining us via phone. And if you could please identify yourself and also state your address for the record, we can commence public comment.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson Guild. William Sue, 145770 Walden Boulevard, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401. Thank you to Chairperson Guild and the committee for letting me speak today. I was pleased to see in the amended agenda item 4B, the attached support letter for renewal of Ronaldus and Esther Van Langen, Immigration in Marathon County from Board Chairperson Gibbs. Farming is difficult work, and as Chair Gibbs mentioned in his letter, agriculture is one of our county's most valuable industries. I'm glad that the importance of the agricultural sector is recognized by this committee and the board, and both of you are considering supporting the Van Langen's appeal to remain as or renew their legal immigration status. Furthermore, it is important to mention that many of the farm owners and workers in this community, regardless of legal status, are or were immigrants. My father was an immigrant to the United States on a student visa in 1969 and moved to Wausau in 1976, while still a permanent resident of the United States, and eventually he became a citizen. Today, our farming company employ over 25 foreign workers on either temporary or permanent work visas from countries such as China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Mexico. The risk of lost opportunity, income, and right to work in this country is a very real threat that our employees face every day. They are law-abiding, tax-paying, and hardworking individuals, and for some of them, their greatest dream is to find a way to legally immigrate or become citizens of our great country. My parents over the years, like the Van Langens, have worked hard to build that American dream for themselves, their families, their employees, and the communities we work and play in. To be honest, our farming business was and continues to be successful for two reasons: free trade and immigration. Our earliest employees were Taiwanese family members, and our customers were new immigrants from Taiwan. This wave was later followed by Hmong and Laotian immigrants seeking refuge here in Marathon County in the 1970s and 80s, many of whom we employed. Today, it is foreign graduate students who have received a top-tier education from American universities and our H-2A agricultural workers from Mexico seeking new employment opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, there are a number of our current and former staff members who were given similar chances by our company and by this country to learn, live, and stay in the United States and eventually become citizens. And all of this is because of our abilities as farmers to grow and supply products that are prized around this country and around the globe. We know that farmers here in Marathon County produce some of the best ginseng and dairy in the world. It is cared for by the hands of Americans, Dutch, Hmong, Laotian, Taiwanese, Chinese, Mexican, and other immigrants to the United States. Thank you for supporting and welcoming immigrants of all nationalities here in Marathon County. I look forward to the EEED Committee and the Marathon County Board offering letters of support and encouraging more immigrants to settle in the area who wish to become Wisconsin farmers or work for local farms and agricultural companies. Your actions today will speak louder than your words in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. We will now move on to the second individual who has signed up as a member of the public, and that is Ron Van Langen. Sir, would you like to make any public comment at this time? He is declining to speak, but he is here and did register as a member of the public for the meeting. So those were the only two individuals that approached the chair prior to the meeting, and so we will move on to item 3, approval of the August 5th, 2021 Extension, Education, and Economic Development Committee minutes. Are there any comments, corrections, or questions on the minutes as they were presented? If not, I would accept a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve the minutes as presented by Supervisor Rosenberg. Is there a second?
I'll second, Supervisor Hall.
We have, who was the second? I apologize.
Supervisor Hall.
I think I've got Supervisor Vole was the one I heard first. So thank you. One last call for any comments or corrections on the minutes. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the August minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Motion carries and the minutes are approved. We'll move on to items 4, policy issues for discussion and potential committee determination. I have had a request to change the order of the items listed under 4 in order to discuss the support letter before we move into the strategic plan. So are there any objections to taking 4B first from committee members? Hearing no objections, I will officially make that change to today's agenda, and we will first move into discussing item 4B, the support letter for renewal of Ronaldus and Esther Van Langen immigration in Marathon County, Wisconsin. I believe Paul Daigle was going to be attempting to join us via phone. Is Paul on the line?
I am on the line, and if there's any questions on my part, I'm here if anyone would have a question.
Okay. I know that he helped to bring this item forward, as did Chair Gibbs. And so I just wanted everyone to be aware that they are both here, as is the individual listed in the letter. For committee's reference, this was added just in the last couple of days after being brought to my attention. It was asked that the Chair Gibbs had received a request to put forward this letter of support, but we felt that it was most appropriate in following county policies to have any kind of a request for support be reviewed by the appropriate standing committee. And considering the economic impact that is outlined as the primary reason for supporting the Van Langen's immigration status continuation, we agreed to bring it to this committee for review. I hope that everyone had an opportunity to read the letter that was provided in the packet. What we are asking today is if we as a committee feel that this is an appropriate item to have signed by Chair Gibbs. If we have any questions or concerns about this item, and otherwise we can make a motion. I believe our motion is, I guess I should get some clarification, is the motion to authorize the letter to have Chair Gibbs sign that letter, or does it need to go to an additional committee? Okay, so we can make that determination. And so if there is a motion brought forward, we can either say that this committee recommends that Chair Gibbs signs it, we recommend that it gets reviewed by a different committee first, or we can make no recommendation at all, depending on the will of the committee. So is there any questions from committee members regarding the letter or the goals here today, or any additional information that you would like to request from those in attendance? And again, we do have Chair Gibbs, we have Paul Daigle from the CPZ that works closely with the family, and then of course we also have a representative, Mr. Van Langen is here as well. Supervisor, I've got one from Supervisor Rosenberg, and then I will recognize Vice Chair Lowe.
Thank you.
But make sure you use your microphone if you can get it on. There we go.
Clearly, this has merit, and it has an economic impact, but have we ever done a letter like this before? And what would we do if we got a bunch from well, people who don't have as strong a case here. I kind of worry about that. I think we ought to go through with this, but I'm looking ahead and saying, now what?
So concerns with setting a precedent?
Yeah, that we'd see a number of them every month. And I don't know if that's true, but I'm just saying. And clearly, I think we ought to be sending this, but how do you turn the next one down?
A valid point. And I don't know if we have anybody in the room that can speak to the frequency or how often our county has individuals who are denied immigration status. I can say that from my role in my past job, where I did have some interaction with immigration, and I personally do not have the impression that it is frequent, because don't forget, this isn't the level 1 request. This is something where there's already been a denial and they're appealing. So I think what we're doing is we are setting a precedent at most for someone who has already started the process and is in the appeal stage, which would be far less frequent than people that are just going for the first go ahead. So while it does potentially set a precedent, it based on my observations, and I'm certainly open to anybody else having different ones, but I don't believe that we would be inundated. Vice Chair Lowe and Chair Gibbs has requested to speak. Would you like to allow him to speak first, or would you like to make your comments?
I would like to make my comments.
Go ahead.
Before. Thank you. So I just wanted to say that when I saw this item on the agenda, I was very intrigued. Many thoughts came to mind. Obviously, the questions that first came to my mind were, what were the reasons that Homeland Security denied their initial application? And, other things came to mind, if the appeal is not granted, where will they be repatriated back to? And do they have family back in their home country? So, just a lot of questions. And so, of course, I agree that I support the letter. And so, but there's just a lot of questions in my mind that I'm hoping will get answered during this discussion. So I will just stop there and let Chair Gibbs, take his turn, and maybe I'll get some questions answered there.
All right, thank you. Chair Gibbs?
Well, thank you, Chairman. First off, let me preface this whole thing with, this is one of the first times that it's ever has come to my attention to the board. And as I understand the situation, at least as it has been explained to me, it is a special set of unique circumstances that brings us to this point, partially because of COVID, and partially from possibly some misinformation as far as how and when timely was applications to continue to stay, but that was complicated because of COVID. And I would, I guess I would invite Mr. Daigle or Mr. Van Lannen to speak to the specifics of those, but again, as I understand, there was a special set of circumstances that centered around the reason that there was a denial issuance was that tied to the restrictions on travel of COVID. So with that, I would ask if Mr. Daigle would address it, or whoever would like to address that.
All right, in the room, it looks like Mr. Van Langen, are you comfortable with addressing or responding to some of those questions, sir?
Yeah, I have to. That's why I'm here.
Wonderful.
But it's to tell everything. It's a long story, but we applied for with the help of Sean Duffy. We applied for a green card in 2018, and when we sent it in, after we sent it in, we found out it was going to take 26 months before we would get an answer, and. Then we asked Sean Duffy what to do because our visa was expiring in October 2019. So that would be within the 26 months. And they advised us to go to the US CIS office in Minneapolis and ask them all my questions that I had. So we went to the USCIS office in Minneapolis in September 2018. Asked them what to do, and the person there told us, the field officer told us that we had to, as long as the green card application was pending, we had to stay in the U.S. And we didn't have to renew our E2 visa. And if the green card application would be denied, we wouldn't have a problem to renew our E2 visa. And well, we had to withdraw from the green card application because you have to have 10 direct employees. Well, there's circumstances that you don't have to have them, but then you have to invest to a regional center, and that's we didn't do that. Of course, we did our investment ourselves. So we had to withdraw from the green card application, and then we asked a lawyer what to do, and they said, you should have renewed your E2 visa in October 2019. So we were overstaying our legal status for over the years already at that time. And now we're trying to get extension of our E2 non-immigrant visa retroactive to October 2019. And we had an intention to deny from that. They want attestation from Tom Tiffany that I tried to do everything good. And so far we didn't have that yet. So we had the support letter from Tom Tiffany, but not really an attestation. So we hope this will help also. And if it doesn't work, we have to leave the US, we have to sell our farm, and we are not able to come back for 10 years. So we hope this is going to work.
Thank you for that additional background, and it certainly sounds like you've had quite the journey of conflicting information. So are there any others that would like to speak, questions or comments on this item? So we have a request from Supervisor Krause, who's joined the meeting. Supervisor?
Thank you. I know farms are big money enterprises, and I'm just wondering what kind of farm is it, and how many kinds of cattle do you have, and what is the value of it, if you would be able to tell that?
Yeah, right now we started with 31 cows in the Tystal barn with 120 acres, and in 2009 we built a new freestyle barn with the first milking robots in central Wisconsin, and with that we became the first robotic grazing farm in the US also. And right now we own 440 acres, and we milk 140 cows, and then 80 pieces of young stock. Total investment is about $4 million.
Thank you. So Are there any other questions from committee members or other individuals involved with this item that you're looking to hear, or more information that you're looking for before making a decision on how the committee would like to move forward with this request for a letter of support?
Chair Guild, Vice Chair Lowe.
Vice Chair Lowe is recognized.
Thank you. So hearing all of the information from Mr. Van Langen, I am definitely empathetic to the Van Langen's desire to stay. I'm definitely supportive of the letter. But I just wanted to also say that, over the last year and a half, we've had the conversation surrounding Community for All, and it was a conversation about diversity and inclusion and welcoming people to our community. And I've been definitely conflicted with some of my colleagues' decisions on that resolution. And so based on, the conversations and the discussions that we've had when we were discussing Community for All, it's really conflicting to me that, maybe some of our, county board members, I don't know how they would feel about this. But I guess that's a conversation that, that's not a conversation for here. But yeah, I fully support the letter. I'm just conflicted because some of the conversations that we've had in the past year and how those conversations are kind of, against supporting something like this, supporting immigrants that have been in this country and they're working hard and they contribute to this community. And that was what was said in the Community for All resolution. And now, we're going to, support this or vote on this, whatever we're going to do with this letter, which would be counter to what we talked about for Community for All. So, I just wanted to point that out because it's a point of contention for me, even though I do support this letter going out to Homeland Security. So that's all I wanted to point out regarding that.
All right, thank you for sharing the comments and observations on that one. And I think we've heard the valid points, but we luckily as a committee have an opportunity to take finally a specific action on this item here. And I think that's the beauty of being able to have that vote and show how we feel about this specific situation. So are there any other comments on the letter of support that's being requested? And again, as a reminder, go ahead.
Yeah, Chair Guild, this is Supervisor Beestrom. I would move that we support the letter and authorize board chair to sign it and on behalf of the county, and let's get this moving forward and get the Van Langens to stay here in Marathon County. Sounds like they're doing an excellent job on the farm, and I certainly don't have a problem with that. So I would move to authorize and get it signed, get this thing in the works.
All right, thank you Supervisor Beestrom for that motion. Is
Chair.
that? Yes.
Supervisor Mask would like to speak.
All right, let me first see if we have a second on the motion, and then I will recognize that request. We have a second from Supervisor Rosenberg. So we have a request to speak from Supervisor Mask. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Guild. Having gone through this process with my daughter-in-law, who is here from the Philippines, and knowing the hoops that she had to jump through and how threatening the situation was before and after COVID for her, I sympathize with everyone in this situation, and I fully support going ahead and sending this letter out, because these people are productive in our community and we need to retain people like that. And having gone through that with my daughter-in-law, it was horrible. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, and I also just want to recognize and thank all of the supervisors who are not a member of this committee who have joined us today to show interest in our topics. I appreciate that. So, are there any other comments regarding what is now the motion on the floor to authorize Board Chair Kurt Gibbs to sign the letter of support on behalf of the county to be submitted with the Van Langen's appeal for their immigration status? Supervisor Rosenberg? Microphone, please, sir.
Only that, can we get some guidelines in the future as to how to deal with this sort of issue, so that, and I don't know how tight they have to be, but such that if you start getting 10 a month or something, that you're not dealing with it all the time. Some criteria for it.
Would this be something that can just be added to the rules review list of items to look at some point in the future?
You bet.
I'm not sure which other area to send it to. Sorry, Craig. So we have a recommendation that this could potentially be looked at by rules review. Would probably be the appropriate, or even just Corporation Counsel could give an opinion on it.
Just something for guidance so that it's not, you don't get stacks of them.
Okay, noted. Any other comments or questions related to the motion on the floor?
Chair Guild.
Vice Chair Lowe?
Thank you. So, just piggybacking off of Supervisor Rosenberg's comment there, maybe we have a great opportunity here, in honor of the Van Langens, to, have an immigration study. How does immigration affect the county, the positives of it, how many immigrants are in the county, stuff like that. Maybe that's something we can add to the end of our agenda, number 7.1, for future agenda items.
Thank you. And I would actually encourage you to hold that thought for our next item, strategic plan conversations. That may be something for the future there. Oh. All right, any other comments before we take the vote? Hearing none, then all committee members in favor of approving the motion to have Chair Gibbs sign the letter of support for renewal of Ronaldus and Esther Van Langen's immigration status in Marathon County, Wisconsin, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed to the motion on the floor? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. So thank you all very much for being here. And sir, we will, the chair and administration will take care of that and follow up with you. So appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah.
So, all right, and then we will move on to the agenda. And again, since we changed order slightly, we will go to 4A, update on the 2018-2022 Strategic Plan Committee objectives. Board Vice Chair Craig McEwen is here with us in the room. He asked to do the semi-annual strategic plan update conversation, and so he has a few comments he'd like to share with the committee today. Just to kind of get us thinking about this topic again, I anticipate we will bring this back one of the next upcoming months for further discussion, but he wanted to share some thoughts with us to kind of get our thinking caps on.
Thank you, Chair Gill. And good afternoon to the rest of the members of the Triple ED Committee and staff. So I guess the purpose of the meeting today with your committee is to have a discussion about the strategic plan, and just wanted to run a few issues by this committee and ask them to consider these issues with their upcoming meetings. So we're ending the 4th year of our 5-year strategic plan, 2018 to 2022. So I guess in your future meetings with the EED committee, I would ask that you continue, and I know you've been reviewing the strategic plan, and there's been some accomplishments that have been made, and I know Chair Gill has some of those listed. However, because we're getting actually down to like 6 months left in our term, it's getting more important that we start looking at some of the objectives, the strategies, and the outcome measures for each one of these objectives that the EED committee is the lead committee for. And they are 8.7, which you jointly share with infrastructure, 10.6, 10.8, and 10.10. And the reason I mentioned to start reviewing the strategies and the outcome measures is there may have been some changes since 2018 with discussions from your committee, and you may want to consider maybe reevaluating some of the strategies. For 8.7, there are 5 strategies that are listed and 1 outcome measure. But it's, like I said, things have changed considerably since 2018. The next thing, are there any, or what policies, resolutions, changes would this committee like to work on before the end of your term, which is, like I said, approximately 6 months before this term is up, that would help with the implementation of the strategic plan? And then during your discussion with the strategic plan, I would ask you that you consider using a template that the ERC committee is using, and it helps track their progress on the strategic plan. And I know Chair Gill has a copy of the template, and I know several of the other committees are starting to use that. And I had a discussion with Chair Gill, and this template is just simply a guideline. I know every committee is a little bit different, and it would be totally up to this committee if they want to use it, if they want to modify it, so that they can utilize this also. Because when we get towards the end of the strategic plan, it would be very helpful to have these templates to examine some of the outcome measures and strategies that were used. So those are the 3 things that I just wanted to emphasize that this committee consider. And also, I know the administrator did an update on the strategic plan in 2020, and I know it was online. I'm not sure if all the committee members received that update. If not, I'm sure the administrator would be happy to send that back out to some people that did not receive it. So with that, I'm just going to ask Chair Gill if she has anything she wants to add, or the rest of the committee's members, if they have anything that they would like to add that I could do to help with the strategic plan.
All right, thank you. So yeah, as Vice Chair McEwen said, you know, it's time for us to really take a look at our responsibilities on the strategic plan and see where we are at. We are 6 months out from the end of this term, 1 year out from the deadline for many of the, you know, for the 2022 dates that a number of the outcomes are affiliated with. And I'd like to just kind of mention a couple of items today, and I am planning on bringing this back, as we've done in the past, bringing this back at probably the next meeting, where we can have a more detailed conversation about what this committee thinks we can and should do to meet the remaining goals of the strategic plan. One of the items that I am going to attempt to do prior to that meeting is I have been going through the strategic plan and looking, as you recall, it's divided into kind of three, each section has three components. It's got the objective, which is the statement that we are trying to fulfill. It has strategies, which are essentially actions that were recommended we take to achieve that objective. And then it has outcomes, which were specific goals that we were going to, as a county, attempt to achieve by a certain deadline. So that's where the SMART component came in. And I've been looking at those outcomes specifically to see where we're at, and I'm hoping to get some updates on each of those. Because that's going to be one key piece of helping us identify where the gaps are as we head into this final year. You know, just looking at these, you know, briefly, Objective 8.7, we always have been referring to that as the Broadband Objective. We've made some really good progress on that. When I look through the strategies, there were 5 of them listed, and 4 of them were something that our committee had had engagement with, and we have either completely or at least partially taken steps for all of those strategies, which means we are on track to achieve the outcome that was listed here, which was increasing internet access to households by 9,800 people, and that was by the end of 2019. I believe we achieved that goal, and we're now going to have a new outcome based on what happens with all of these providers that we're in the process of working with. So that's one really important piece. But when we look at the other 3 objectives that were assigned, they're a little less straightforward. And Objective 10.6 is what I call the workforce objective. This one is, we've talked about working with the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. And we've talked with them. They've been invited to our meetings and had some conversations with us. We've also actually had some conversations with the Regional Planning Commission lately. We just authorized funding that housing assessment, which does impact workforce. So we have taken some steps in recent months towards this objective, which is great. But the outcomes on here were to increase the overall workforce participation rate in the county by 5%, and to also decrease the number of vacant positions right here in Marathon County. So those are items that we, you know, I would like us to get some information on. Have we met them? Are we on track to meet them, or are we not? If we're not, I think this committee's conversation at our next meeting needs to be, what could we do, either directly or by encouraging other entities in the area in order to achieve those goals. The same goes with the others. Objective 10.10 is supporting entrepreneurship. Our goal was to increase the number of businesses in Marathon County. Now, this objective was set pre-COVID. So this is one where I'm going to be really interested to hear what the number of businesses are in the county. And this may be something where we have to look at what kind of an impact did COVID have. And are we looking at an increase? Are we as a committee going to view an increase as the only success, or is maintaining going to even be a success, or returning? I don't know at this time what that number is, and I want our committee is going to need to know that number. The other outcome for this is that looking at McDevco, having a certain percentage, 90% of businesses that receive assistance from McDevco's loan program, sustaining that for 3 years. Another one where I know that COVID really had a very significant impact on the businesses and how they utilize McDevco's loan program. So this will be another conversation opportunity for us. And finally, looking at Objective 10.8, this is about developing key employment centers within the county. And our outcomes, the things that we said we would get measured by, is looking at increasing the utilization of the available vacant business and industrial park space in the county by 5%. The Regional Planning Commission is where we got the original baseline numbers, so they'll be able to tell us where we're at. But again, did COVID impact our ability to achieve this 5% goal? If it did, what could be done by the county or our partners in the community to get there? And finally, the other item under this was to increase or at least maintain the number of full and part-time positions at Marathon County. And so this will be something that we'll be talking with the county's HR team to see where we're at with our employment numbers. And are they where we wanted them to be? And if not, what could we do? And so over the course of the next month or so, I really encourage committee members to start thinking about where we could potentially take some actions, or at least build some relationships to help ensure that by the end of 2022, we are on track as much as is reasonably possible, considering the unique circumstances, to meet the goals for all 4 of our areas. And I do think that we've got some new opportunities. It might be time to start thinking outside the box. We have done a really good job over these years of identifying actions and pursuing them. So this could also be a time for us to start thinking about new ways to start meeting the needs of our education and economic development here in the county. So there's things we talked about earlier this year when we were discussing UW Extension's strategic planning initiative. We talked about, improving rural health. We talked about enhancing childcare, which is a topic that I've actually had come up frequently lately from multiple directions. That may be something worth revisiting. Those are the types of things that maybe we haven't done anything in the past, but we could. And so I'm encouraging you as committee members to start thinking beyond what we've always done and seeing if there's something new to help achieve this. And so with that, I will stop talking. I believe Vice Chair McEwen has a comment he'd like to make, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the committee for comments or questions.
Thank you, Chair Gill. And that's exactly the type of conversations that I'm encouraging all the standing committees to have. And if you look at 12.3, I have a note on the top of that. It's the executive committee, which promotes cost-effective public services. And then I got all committees should be involved in this. And so, when you're reviewing the strategic plan, I know you have 4 that you're the lead committee, but those can affect the other 8 objectives that we have. And like I said, that's something that I think all committees should be evaluating how they can, promote that objective as far as, promoting cost-effective public services. So, but yeah, this is exactly what I hope all the committees will start to have. We're kind of getting to the end of this, but that doesn't mean that there's not things that still can be, completed by these committees to implement the strategic plan. So,
or to make as a recommendation for the next strategic plan.
exactly.
So there are definitely going to be things that aren't going to be able to be accomplished in another year, but maybe it's time to start flagging some recommendations for the next go-round. That is a very valid point. We are the primary on 4 of these items, but we are also the secondary committee under, I believe, 2 or 3 of them. So you don't feel like we can only look at those 4. If you have ideas for some of the others, I know that one that always jumps to my mind because I'm on the ERC committee is promoting sound land use decisions that conserve and preserve natural resources in decisions with economic development and growth. So if there's ways to be more environmentally conscientious while still promoting economic development, that would be something that we could look at. So are there any comments from committee members on the strategic plan, kind of where we're at or what we are hoping to do and discuss over the course of the next couple of months left this year? Oh, Vice Chair McEwen, you have one more comment for us?
Yeah, thank you. For the template, the ERC committee, if you have a chance to look at their March 30th, 21 agenda, that's where they discussed the template and actually has it filled out as far as the progress and where specific items are. And like I said, there's the template that I'm talking about was actually utilized and developed by CPZ, but it has this agenda. It actually has it filled out to their progress thus far. So if you get a chance, take a look at that agenda from the ERC committee on March 30th. So thank you.
Thank you. And I do see that our very efficient Administrator Leonard has just forwarded us an email with links to both the current strategic plan and the update that was referenced by the Vice Chair. So thank you for that, sir. So we now have a quick and easy way to get to it in case you didn't already have it bookmarked on your Google page like I do. So any other comments from committee members?
Chair Guild, this is Vice Chair Lowe.
Vice Chair Lowe is recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, again, I mentioned that maybe an immigration study would be smart to do, just because it does fit within Objective 10.6 to ensure the future availability of skilled and flexible workforce prepared to meet the needs of both existing and emerging industries and technologies. And it also fits within Objective 10.8 as well. Let's see. And also Objective 10.10 to create an innovative atmosphere to foster an entrepreneurial supportive environment. I think in the letter before supporting the Van Langens, they do 140 cow dairy operation, $4 million per year. I mean, that's significant. So an immigration study, I think, would fit into our objectives very well.
Thank you, and that's something, that'd be the kind of thing that I definitely don't want to, make sure you bring that back at the next conversation that we have on this. And if you have an opportunity, it might not be a bad idea, whether it's you or just members of the committee. We don't want to recommend something that's already being done. So if anybody is aware of any other entity, United Way or anything like that, even regional planning or entities like that do a lot of those kinds of surveys, if they have done one or if they are planning to do something that we can partner with or anything like that, that would be really good information for us to bring here. Because as I have lamented once or twice, we don't have a staff person dedicated to our committee, other than, of course, we have extension, but even that isn't a dedicated person for us. So if there's ways to partner, and build off of things like the life report to accomplish that goal, that might be a way to do it. But I think that's a good idea to start the conversation and see where we can go with it. Supervisor Rosenberg?
Isn't the city of Wausau bringing in 100-ish over the next year immigrants? And I don't know what background they've done with it, but there's a place to look, I guess.
Another good point. So, Supervisor Krause.
Thank you, Chair Guild. I'm not a member of this committee, and I haven't been to very many meetings. So I'm trying to find out if this is something you do cover or not. But it says economic development, and during COVID and Delta, there's been so much unemployment, so many businesses closing. Does this committee have a handle on that? Do you talk about it? Because, it says that you're increasing businesses by 5%, but yet, that how can you meet that when so many businesses, this is not planned. COVID was not planned. Delta was not planned. So what do you do? Do you know how bad the business area is in Marathon County? Do you have a handle on that? And what do you do when you don't meet your goals of 5% increase?
And those are some good questions and good points. And not to repeat myself, but one of, again, the challenges of our committee is because we don't currently have a department here at the county that oversees economic development related items. We rely on community partners such as McDevco, the Regional Planning Commission, the Workforce Development Board, the Chamber of Commerce, Greater Wausau Prosperity Partnership. Those are all economic development affiliated entities that we have brought into our committee meetings, that we have conversations with, and that kind of keep us alerted as to, what is going on. But to say, how do we make sure that there's that 5% increase, for example, we have a very limited tools right now to do so. And one of the things this committee could talk about is what could we do to better leverage those tools or move things around? Or is that even our role? That's a policy question for this committee to decide, is what is the appropriate role of the county in economic development? Do we really need to be doing more because there are so many partners already in that realm in the region? And thus far, the county has historically said that we rely on our partners to do that, and we try to support them when we can, such as funding the housing assessment study or contributing to the Greater Wausau Prosperity Partnership's economic assessment or economic impact study that we gave some money towards earlier this year. So that has been some of the ways that we've done that, but we haven't done any direct, we're not out there selling the sites to the businesses at this time. Any other comments or questions on this item? All right, then hearing none, consider this your warning that this is going to be coming back, and I'm challenging you as committee members to bring some ideas to our future meeting. Bring me some successes that you think we've had, things that we've done that you want to make sure go on the record, and also things that we still could do or need to do. But for the time being, we will move forward on the agenda. So under item 5 of operational functions, there are none this month, so we'll move quickly to item 6, our educational presentations and outcomes monitoring reports. Our reports from committee-affiliated departments and organizations is up first. So 6A1 is the Marathon County Public Library. Leah did provide the written report in the packet of all the great things they've been doing. I don't know, is Leah still on the call waiting patiently for us? All right.
Yes, I'm here, Chair Guild.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
So you have my report, and I will keep things brief because we got a late start, and I know you have a lot of important things that you discussed today. So if anyone has any questions about the report that I submitted for the packet. I'm happy to answer those. Other than that, I have one thing that I think would be of interest to this committee in particular. It's unofficial. The minutes have not been approved. That will be happening at this upcoming meeting. But at the last library board meeting, the board voted to postpone consideration of withdrawal from WVLS for 1 year to allow for further assessment. So I know that you were involved or would be involved in that process, and I just wanted to let you know that assuming those minutes get approved, that will be the status of that.
Thank you for that important update. You are correct. That is a key item for this committee that we've been monitoring. So I appreciate you keeping us updated on that item. So are there any questions for Leah on the information that was provided in the written report?
Chair Gill, this is Vice Chair Lowe.
Vice Chair Lowe is recognized.
Thanks. I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. I was really happy to see that the library added East Asian materials to your collection, purchased over 60 new items for the collection with the grant from East Asia and Wisconsin Library Program. So I was really happy to see that.
Thank you for bringing that up. We applied for a grant so that we were able to get some additional materials outside of our normal collection allocation there. And the staff here on the library services team are always looking out for great opportunities, especially like that. A new one that we're looking at is a grant for digitization of local Wisconsin history. We have not yet applied. We're looking into, what the requirements are for that, but that's another thing that's sort of on the horizon that we're hoping to do. Thank you.
Great, that all sounds great. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments on the written library report? All right, hearing none, I want to thank you, as always, for joining us and for the updates and taking the time to put that written update together. It is always appreciated.
Thank you, Chair Guild.
All right, then item 6A2 from McDevco. I can't tell, do we have a McDevco representative on the line at this time? Okay, I did not anticipate that they would be able to join us this week. It's a rather busy week out there. I know that we did receive, so the McDevco, their annual year actually just wrapped up at the end of August, and so we have a little bit larger than usual report provided in the packet, but that was their full year annual report. So I hope you took a moment to take a look at the information in there. There's a lot of good stuff despite COVID and all those challenges that they've been doing to keep our economic vitality in the county. In addition to that, I did also want to let you know that the executive director, Vicki Rashik, is retiring, and that tomorrow is her last day at McDevco. And so I just received notice because I, along with some other members of this committee, are part of the McDevco board, that there is a special meeting being held tomorrow to potentially introduce the new director of McDevco. So I expect by our next meeting we will have someone new in place. But I just want to go on the record and recognize all of the work that Vicki has done at her time in McDevco, coming in as a loans person initially and rising up to executive director about a couple of years ago. And she's really seen it through a lot of changes, moving first to their Gear Center and now out to the Entrepreneurial and Education Center out on 72nd Avenue. And there's just been a lot of activity, and she deserves recognition for the time that she put in, and she has certainly earned her retirement. So it'll be interesting to see what comes next with McDevco, and for this committee, this could be an opportunity to again revisit some ideas of how we can interact. New people bring new ideas. So are there any other questions related to the McDevco report? Hearing none, we'll move to item 6A3, UW-Madison Division of Extension. And Jason is here for the report, and that was provided in the packet as well. So Jason?
Yep, thanks, Chair Guild. So yes, we have the written report for our educators in your packet. A couple items that I want to draw your attention to, in particular, our food-wise programming. In the packet, bullet number 2, it talks about 3,200 pounds of fresh produce gleaned. That has risen to almost 4,000 pounds that have been gleaned of fresh produce that would have either went to landfill or been disposed of, that actually have been gleaned as far as people were leaving the farmers market by our staff and taken to those areas of need. So a huge success of our food-wise staff for last year. We look at the horticulture educator, Janelle Ware, and they found, so under item 10.6, when you're talking about skilled workforce, one of the things that she's been working on a statewide project that's listed here is the Foundations in Horticulture. This is a program that she's been working on a statewide level, but then it will be expanded here in Marathon County with the Gaining Grounds Garden and getting workforce skills to, as it's listed there, the Veterans Office, so working with Jill in veterans and employable skills there, and then also in the Gaining Grounds Garden with Huber release inmates and others from Community Connections and so forth. So, and then lastly, I want to just draw your attention to Caitlin Bernardi in our 4-H program. She is piloting with some other colleagues a Juntos 4-H program, which is aimed at the Latinx communities in Marathon, Clark, and Wood counties, kind of in that area from Marshfield to Colby, Abbotsford. So partnering with those organizations to really expand our 4-H program to new and emerging audiences that we have in our communities. So it's a new and innovative way of looking at traditional 4-H community club program, but really meeting the needs of that community where they are. It's instead of kind of lead first with empathy, know where they're at first, and then give them the resources that they want instead of forcing things upon them. So it's a really good opportunity for us to expand our programming in the western side of the county too. So with that, Chair Gill, I guess I would entertain any questions people have in the written report.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions on this month's UW Extension written report? Hearing none, I think that means you once again covered it all. So thank you very much, and thank your staff. All right, and then item 6A4, the UW Stevens Point Wausau campus report. And I was contacted earlier today by Ann. She had a family conflict arise and was not going to be able to join us, but luckily she did provide her report as well. I was excited to see that they finally announced who got the dining contract, and we get a taste of Jamaica, I believe I saw. So hopefully we'll all have a chance to stop in there and try that one of these days. But if there are any questions, are there any that our committee members think I could answer? Administrator Leonard has a comment.
Thank you, Chair Guild. Just to bring you up to speed on one item that you may have seen in the local media as of late, there has been some discussion locally. We were made aware in speaking with campus executive, heard a rap, and also I was aware through speaking with our facilities individuals. There are a local group that has been discussing local housing needs, and there's been some expressed interest relative to the Marathon County dormitory, the dormitory that we've discussed at this committee in the past. County board person Gibbs did a very nice interview that was available online and on Channel 7, I believe, that discussed this in a little bit of detail. But the short story remains that the county at this time, based on the direction of the board, has included the dormitory property within the West Side Master Plan request for proposal that had gone out, and it remains out at this time. And we will report back what the results of that master planning effort are. Again, the master planning effort is essentially to provide insight as to what the community's needs are and what the best and highest use of the entire West Side property that the county owns, really what those uses should be. So just if you had any questions or concerns relative to that media report, just want to make sure that everyone's aware. No administration has not taken any direction different from that which you've previously directed us to take, which is to move forward with that planning process. But there certainly are individuals within the community that have expressed some interest relative to that property.
Thank you, and I appreciate you touching on that. I did see that report this week, and was noted that the Chair Gibbs had recognized that the West Side Master Plan was still the direction, but if committee members do get any questions on that, it's good to know kind of where we all are. So are there any questions or comments regarding the UW-Stevens Point update at this time?
This is Vice Chair Lowe.
Vice Chair Lowe, go ahead.
Thanks. So I did run into Anne last week, and we did talk about the engineering collaboration with UW-Platteville. And it's something that she had been talking about for a very long time. And so, she was just very excited about it. And if people didn't know, UW-Platteville is known for their engineering program. So I was really excited to hear about it that the two-year college here is partnering with UW-Platteville. So that's a big win.
Glad that you brought that up, because that was a really important thing, and I saw that they did a really nice media announcement with that recently. That was one more way that they're bringing attention to the campus that we've got here, and I was pleased to see that in the notes that enrollment has pretty much stayed steady for just regular, and it didn't even count a lot of the newer, higher level areas. So that's a really good sign, and considering what our strategic plan goals were and how much we've talked about the UW-Stevens Point and supporting that campus and supporting enrollment because of the positive impact it has on our county, I think it's really nice to see that the changes and the decisions that have been made by this committee over the years appear to be moving things in the direction that we were looking to go. So, and being able to attract partnerships like the one with Platteville is an indicator that, I think we're going to be okay. So, all right. Any other comments on the UWSP update? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move into item 6B, a report from the administrator on the budget recommendation regarding that 0.5 Communities Extension Educator funding. So as you all no doubt recall, since July, we've been having some conversations about the fact that the position that was previously held by Melinda Osterberg is now vacant. She has moved on to a position with WEDC, and we've been talking about the best way to utilize this position that was being shared with a fellow county. And so the administrator has been looking at this, and with the budget planning going on, he wanted to share some of his thoughts and some of the direction that they're looking at right now. So Administrator Leonard?
Thank you, Chair Guild. Teed that up very nicely for me. We are deep into our budget work. I've had all my meetings with all of the departments, including meeting with UW Extension. And the ultimate determination that I've made in building my proposed budget is that I'm going to recommend that the $21,165 that is provided for within the contract with UW Extension, the state of Wisconsin, to pull that from that 133 contract, put those dollars within the budget of the Office of Administrator to pilot what I'm kind of referring to as a project management function. So it was my assessment after kind of doing essentially a review of our work over the last several months, in particular relative to broadband. The county accomplished a great many things in terms of our broadband applications. We submitted for a total of 9 grants, either directly or assisted in the application for those grants, of total value of in excess of $46 million. And certainly UW Extension and Melinda played a very important role throughout that process. The shortfall that I saw was there are certain things that are really within UW Extension's wheelhouse and the education, finding how to engage the public and educate them in certain areas. That's vitally important. At the same time, there are some things that are more on the operational side of a project management function, as I'll call it, that are really vitally important when you need to get a grant done or engage to accomplish an objective, well, especially if it's an economic development one. So I don't know that this is the answer, but one of the things that I talk about a lot with staff is that, you know what, we need to try new things to see how they work. We'll make different mistakes next time. So I'm going to recommend that we take that $21,165 from that budget, work within the existing administration budget to allocate other funds to essentially pilot this project management function to assist, as I believe, over the next several months on broadband and other things. Because if my short tenure in administration has taught me one thing, it's that what I believe I'm going to be doing tomorrow is not likely what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, that there's always something new, and the ability to pivot quickly and not have that potential that, hey, there are some things that are really within certain departments' wheelhouses and some things that aren't, I think might be useful. That said, like I referenced before, I'm not sure this is the right way to go, but it's something I want to try. The board, as it always has, it has the opportunity, and HR Finance has the first crack at it, can change my proposed budget. And I simply wanted to make this committee aware of that change so you could have some additional time to ponder whether or not you wanted to propose such a modification, put that money back in, put it back in, direct me to put it into UW Extension and have further conversations with UW Extension about what that position might do in terms of economic development, for example, or in one of the other fields that Jason laid out for you in your previous meetings, provided a very nice overview of the various departmental areas within Extension. But my recommendation in my proposed budget is to take those funds, $21,165, to work together to essentially develop an internal resource for project management, see how that goes, and report back to the board.
All right.
That's all I had, Chair Guild.
Thank you for the update on that. I do appreciate that. I think that it appears that you heard some of the conversations that we had at our prior meeting about wanting to make sure that we have support and the ability to work with broadband applications, which was the big limiting factor that we kept running into. Unfortunately, Extension was doing everything they could, but there just were those understandable limitations. You can't do it all, and at some point you gotta draw the line. So are there questions from committee members regarding the proposal that the administrator is anticipating bringing forward as part of the budget, or any comments that you wish to share at this time? Jason, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Guild, and I appreciate the time. If there's other questions from the committee members or comments, they can interject. I appreciate Administrator Leonard. We had a wonderful conversation about this, and I think one of the things that I do appreciate and acknowledge is the position that the administrator is in is balancing all the needs of the county with a limited budget. So, like I said in the conversation with him, I said I could stand up here and do a song and dance routine, and that would provide some entertainment. I would love to keep the position in our budget. For the plethora of different options that I laid out at the last meeting, whether it was community development or a different position, I respect and appreciate his perspective, and to his point about, don't know if that's the right way to go, but you got to try new things to see where it goes, right? So I did want to just make a comment about the community development position. In particular, is after our last meeting and the feedback that I put out, and I actually, for those that weren't at that meeting, I brought extra copies if you want to see it again of the different options. I did reach out to Benoit Jacob, who's the Community Development Institute Director, and just kind of looking at what is his staffing plan long term, because I think Board Chair Kurt Gibbs has heard about the ag staffing plan moving forward and the vision with some regional specialists, regional educators, and kind of just specialization. So I said, what is your plan of action? And he did mention that there is future potential, even in the short term, of a regional specialist or some dynamic of that in a broadband space. Because of all the partnerships that he has with WEDC, the PSC and some of those inner workings, and broadband being a huge, I'll call it beast. It is a beast across the state. I actually had a conversation just the other day with Executive Holman in Portage County. Broadband is a priority in Portage County too, and so they're looping in extension. So Benoit's future state is to include a broadband specialist, what that looks like, how it's funded, how many counties it serves, that is in his wheelhouse. But he thought of Marathon County when he is going through this staffing plan. So at a future date, when it's available, I'll bring it back to this committee and see, how that partnership could fit into Marathon County. But I just want to thank you for your support as always for extension and what we do. And I can't thank the administrator enough for having continuous dialogue and kind of going back and forth about that money. I know it's always hard when you're trying to balance a budget with sometimes some fixed numbers, right? And increased needs in different areas. So as we move forward, I'll keep you in tune of some of these regional positions as they come out and different staffing opportunities as they do arise. And especially the ag one that's been kicked around and some other things, just so you're informed about all the different directions that we're going with extension to really meet the needs of Marathon County and central Wisconsin now in 2021, but into 2022 and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments and for your understanding of kind of the limited resources that we need to maximize in order to achieve our goals and our strategic plan goals in particular. Are there any other comments or questions from committee members about this item? All right, hearing none at this time. As always, if you do come up with some questions or ideas that you think are worth sharing, please reach out to me, to the administrator, to the chair, Chair Gibbs, as appropriate. We certainly want to have a dialogue and make sure that everyone, is on the same page and that we're working together for that shared goal. But thank you all for the time that you've put into trying to find the appropriate solution for this under the circumstances that we have. So, all right, with that, I'll move on to item 7, our next meeting time, location, announcements, and future agenda items. Committee members are always encouraged to bring their ideas for future discussion items. Are there any recommendations or suggestions committee members want to bring forward for a future meeting at this time? Hearing none, we will, at a minimum, have the strategic plan conversation going, and I'm sure there will be other things related to the budget as well. So our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 4th at 4 p.m. And with that, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Vice Chair Lowe. Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Rosenberg. Why do we keep saying, yeah, sorry, man. All right, all in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all very much for making the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.